Hi everyone, my name's Mark. I'm the pastor of Lifehouse Community Church. It's great to be able to join you in your virtual walk. Thanks Earl for inviting me. We've known Earl and Rebecca since our time at Bible College with them many years ago. I was actually on placement with them on church placement in Basingstoke at East Church. We've really missed seeing Earl and Rebecca and their girls due to restrictions of lockdown, but I'm so pleased that I'm able to connect with you all at Spring Life Community Church. I hope you're all well. It's strange times that we live in at the moment, but I want to encourage you to keep on going. It's not easy at times, but I know God is for us. God is with us, and that he can sustain all of our needs. In this walk, we're going to be looking at Ephesians 5:29 to 33, and this is what it says. After all, no one ever hated their own body, but they feed and care for their body, just as Christ does the church. For we are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. This is a profound mystery, but I'm talking about Christ and the church. However, each one of you must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. There's so much in these verses. I won't be able to cover it all, but I'll share some thoughts and give you some questions to stir up your own thinking and maybe even provoke a little too. I hope that's okay. But let's dive in straight away. In verse 32, Paul states here that he's talking about Christ and the church. He's talking about Jesus and us as believers. Not only does Paul here use how husbands should love his wife, how a wife should respect her husband, but there's something bigger. The mystery in verse 32 he talks about of Christ and the church. So this isn't just for those that are married, this is for all of us. The church is the wife of the King, the bride of the Messiah. Two things that I want to look at are self-abandoning love and unity. Verse 29 talks about the fact that people don't hate their own body. Well, at least most people. Some people do struggle with this, but for the majority of us, we at least look after it and provide it with water, food, sleep. We brush our teeth, all those sorts of things, etc. The verse then compares to how Christ loves the church. In fact, Christ shows this in self-abandoning love. God gave his Son to come to this earth to become a servant that is a king, born not in a palace, but a stable or a barn. Not only that, but gave up his life so that we may live and have life to the full. Paul is encouraging husbands and wives to put each other first, to put them ahead of parents or other family members. A new family is formed. I just felt prophetically as I prepared this, God wanted to touch on this for some people. The phrase I have is, you need to tell your wife or your husband things before you tell your family, to show that they come first. For some, I felt that you need to put your wife or husband before your kids, and out of that you will have sacrificial love for your kids. Maybe even for some, you're worried you might lose your kids if you put your husband or wife first. But by choosing your husband or wife, I believe God says you won't lose them. So that's just a little aside of a prophetic thing that I thought God was speaking for you. In verse 31, it talks about being united. Paul says that a man is to leave his mother and father and be united with his wife. In marriage, it's about husbands and wife becoming one flesh. So many times other things creep in and take over. Have things taken over in your marriage? Have you become united to other things? Have we become more united to our work, friends, hobbies, maybe even money? Paul uses this to also point us to become united with Christ. That this picture of marriage, of husband and wife becoming one, is also a picture of the church, the bride of Christ, becoming one with King Jesus. But again, it doesn't stay there. It goes further and deeper. This is how we are to treat others. Jesus said that we are to love God and put him first. And then secondly, to love our neighbour. What does it look like to have self-abandoning love, that we put others first? Jesus shows us it's about sacrificing. What's God asking you to sacrifice for others today in your life? Paul describes the church as the body of Christ. In other books, he talks about the church is a body of many parts. Here he talks about us looking after your body. We're also called to look after the church body. I love the church. I think it's amazing, but I think that we can take it for granted. We can be quick to judge, to put it down. If we are part of the church and we're putting it down or judging it, then we are judging and putting down ourselves as we are part of it. Instead, let's look at it with the eyes that Jesus does and love it and say, how can I help? What can I do to serve? What part can I play? Then to look beyond the church, who can you reflect God's self-abandoning love? To love your neighbour as we love ourselves, as Christ would love us. Let's ask God to give us his eyes of how to see people. The same eyes that he had for us and has for us now. Let's love people that God is working in our streets and neighbourhoods and workplaces. Let me finish here. Let's examine ourselves and our relationships and ask, do they reflect how Christ loves the church? I hope that God has spoken to you as you have watched and listened, and I pray that we wouldn't feel condemned or unworthy, but we would strive to live as God has for us. Let's receive and give that self-abounding love and be united with Christ and the church.